Picture this, a sleek, powerful fighter jet with variable sweep wings that slice through the air like a bird of prey. It's a machine that became a Hollywood icon, a symbol of American air power, and a legend in its own right. This is the story of the Grumman F-14 Tomcat, a warrior of the skies whose final chapter is as dramatic and heart-wrenching as its operational history. For over 3 decades, the F-14 was the undisputed king of the carrier deck. From its first flight in 1972, its starring role in Top Gun, the Tomcat captured the world's imagination. It was designed during the Cold War to be the ultimate fleet defender, capable of intercepting Soviet bombers at long range with its powerful AWG-9 radar and fearsome AIM-5 for Phoenix missiles. No other aircraft could do what the Tomcat did. It could fly at more than twice the speed of sound, engage multiple targets simultaneously from over 100 miles away, and then, with its wings swept forward, dogfight with the best of them. Pilots who flew the F-14 often speak of it with a reverence, usually reserved for a living thing. They talk about its raw power, the feeling of the afterburners kicking in, and the unique challenges of landing a 30-ton jet on a moving aircraft carrier at night. It wasn't just a machine, it was a partner. The Tomcat had a personality. It was demanding, sometimes unforgiving, but always rewarding. It saw action over the Gulf of Sidra, Iraq, Bosnia, and Afghanistan, proving its mettle time and time again. But time, technology, and budgets wait for no one, not even legends. By the early 2000s, the Cold War was a distant memory. The Tomcat, with its 2-person crew and complex maintenance-heavy systems, was becoming incredibly expensive to operate. The Navy was looking for a more versatile, cost-effective solution. The answer came in the form of the F-A-18E, F Super Hornet, a capable aircraft, no doubt, but for many, it lacked the soul, the sheer presence of the Tomcat. The decision was made. The F-14 would be retired. On September 22, 2006, the last Tomcat, belonging to the Tomcatters of Fighter Squadron 31, completed its final flight. As it touched down at Nassau, Oceana in Virginia, an era came to an end. Grown men, seasoned combat pilots, were seen with tears in their eyes. They weren't just saying goodbye to an airplane, they were saying goodbye to a part of themselves. But what happens to a warrior when the war is over? For many aircraft, retirement means a quiet life in a museum or as a gate guard at an airbase. But for the F-14, the story took a darker turn. The United States had a unique problem. Iran, back in the 1970s, before the revolution, the US had sold its sophisticated F-14s to the Shah of Iran. After the revolution, Iran became an adversary, and it was the only other country in the world operating the Tomcat. This created a massive security risk. The Pentagon was terrified that spare parts from retired US Tomcats could find their way to Iran through the black market, keeping their aging fleet in the air. The Iranian F-14s were a threat to US forces in the Middle East, and the thought of providing them with a lifeline of spare parts was unacceptable. So, a drastic and heartbreaking order was issued. Almost every single retired F-1 for Tomcat was to be destroyed. They couldn't be sold to allies, they couldn't be sold to private collectors, and only a select few were allowed to be preserved in museums. And even those were often demilitarized to the point of being empty shells. The final destination for these magnificent birds was not a place of honor, but a place of destruction. Most were sent to the 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group, better known as the Boneyard, at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. Here, instead of being carefully preserved, they were systematically dismantled and shredded. Imagine the scene. Rows upon rows of these legendary fighters, which once screamed through the heavens, now sitting silent in the desert sun. Then, heavy machinery moves in. Giant metal shears, like the jaws of a prehistoric beast, tear into the fuselage's wings that once swept back for supersonic flight are ripped from the body. The complex web of hydraulics, wiring, and titanium that made the Tomcat a technological marvel is reduced to a pile of scrap metal. The process was methodical and brutal. Workers were tasked with destroying the very aircraft they may have once maintained with pride. They cut them into pieces, ensuring that no significant component, especially the unique wing box structure, could ever be used again. The resulting scrap was then melted down. It was a complete and total erasure. Why such an extreme measure? The concern over Iran was very real. There's a thriving global black market for military parts, and Iran was desperate. By shredding the Tomcats, the US government aimed to cut off the supply at its source. It was a pragmatic, if ruthless, decision. The security of the nation and its service members outweighed the sentimental value of an old aircraft. Still, for aviation enthusiasts and former Tomcat crews, it felt like a betrayal. They watched as videos and photos emerged of the destruction. It was like seeing a thoroughbred racehorse sent to a glue factory. These were not just machines. They were pieces of history, symbols of innovation and courage. Each one had a story, a logbook filled with missions, and crews who trusted it with their lives. A small number of F-14s did escape the shredder. Around 80 aircraft were earmarked for museums and static displays across the country. But even getting one of these was a challenge. Museums had to go through a rigorous application process, proving they could securely display the aircraft and prevent any parts from being stolen. These few survivors are now priceless artifacts, silent ambassadors of a bygone era of naval aviation. You can visit them, stand under their impressive wingspan, and try to imagine the thunderous roar of their twin engines. The story of the F-14's destruction is a stark reminder of the uncertain nature of military logistics and national security. A weapon system, no matter how iconic or beloved, is ultimately a tool, and when that tool is no longer needed or becomes a liability, it is disposed of. But the legacy of the Tomcat cannot be shredded. It lives on in the memories of the pilots and radar intercept officers who flew it. It lives on in the minds of the maintainers who worked tirelessly to keep it combative. And of course, it lives on in popular culture, forever frozen in time as the coolest fighter jet the world has ever seen. The F-14 Tomcat may be gone from the skies, its fleet reduced to scrap and a few museum pieces, but its spirit remains. It was a complex, powerful, and beautiful machine that defined an era of air combat. It was a true legend, and legends never really die. They just fly into the sunset, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more tales from the world of aviation. We'll see you next time.